If you're a Miami sports fan, then there's only one store to go to, and that's Caneswear at Miami Fanwear in Davie. They're your one-stop shop for all your inner Miami CF, Canes, Dolphins, Panthers, and Marlins merchandise. They have hats, t-shirts, game day jerseys, and so much more. Located at 2511 South University Drive in Davie, and open 24/7 online at caneswear.com or innermiamiwear.com. Call them at 954-835-5597. Caneswear, the spot where Inner Miami and all Miami sports fans shop.
We are on the air. AEW goes a little bit over tonight. Looks like they worked out a deal with TBS. You saw the show end, and I saw in the questions already, Frankie Fresco jumped in. Who was that guy? I actually had to look him up. His name is Satnam Singh. He was drafted in 2015 by the Dallas Mavericks. And I guess that didn't work out for him. He became the first Indian to be drafted into an NBA team. But then he later got banned for doping. And then he's training to be a pro wrestler. So he's been working with Sanjay Dutt, apparently at the Nightmare Factory, which is the one ran by Cody Rhodes, QT Marshall, and others there. And now apparently he has joined up with Sanjay Dutt and Jay Lethal. So there's a little bit about him. It says a 25-year-old. Let's see when this was actually written. So I'm going to give you a little bit more. So 2021. So I guess he's 26 now, I'm guessing, or somewhere around there, give or take some. He's 7'3". And he was, so there's some more info. I don't know what all they're going to end up doing with him, but he has made his debut. That's an under the radar. When I saw the lights go out, I was like, they're going to do Malachi Black here, or again, another big announcement next week from Tony Khan. We'll see what that is. I am very interested, and I know Boss B and me were going back and forth a little bit before the show started. And but I'm going to be interested to see how good this show does in the ratings, because I thought it was pretty damn good. The show was good. Did it have its there's some things I think they need to figure out. I think they're trying to find a good formula that works. I thought there was a couple promos, and I get it. You want to promote everybody that's going to be on, Rampage, and they've got the Battle of the Belts coming up this week now on Saturday as well. The special Rampage at 7. So you're promoting all that. I get that. But to me, it feels like they're rushing through the promos on some of this stuff. And some of them I don't understand a whole lot of them. How many times do we have to see Thunder Rosa get beat up by Nyla Rose? And another thing, how many times, is Santana Ortiz and Kingston going to learn that, hey, look, there's 5 of them and 3 of you? For the last 3-4 weeks, it's been beat down city. They get the jump on them, and then they end up beating them down. There's some things that, logistically speaking, I think they need to try to figure out. But one of the biggest thing I think is just I feel like they cram too much in that you have to, hell, I was writing down each match as it was going on, and it took up 2.5 pages. And I barely wrote any notes. I was just making sure that I tried to hit every match. It feels a lot of the stuff is kind of For instance, somebody tweeted out today the ticket sales, they were like 1,000 or something from a sold out show. And now again, whether it was something that was already in the books or whatever, all of a sudden it's announced CM Punk will take on Penta. If you know with Tony Khan, usually that's not something that gets rushed, but I felt like if that match was already there, you would have promoted it for a week, not promote it the day of the event. Felt like they were trying to just throw something off, just try to throw something to see if it stuck, and they sold some extra tickets. I mean, and again, it was like 1,000 tickets from a sold out show of I think it's a 6,500 seat arena. With the way they set it up, I think it held 55, and I think they were sitting at about 4,000 or 4,500 before the show. But the match was great. Frankie, I agree with you. It was a good match. It was just, to me, it felt like they just threw it on the card. There was no promotion until today. Today it got announced. Hey, guess what? Tonight it's going to be CM Punk against Penta. It was either today or yesterday. One of the two. It was only a day. I mean, if that's a match on the card, I'm promoting that more heavier than I'm promoting some of these other matches that they threw at you tonight. I mean, I'll go into a couple of them that they're promoting that I don't get what they're trying to do with some of the matches. And this is no knock on them. I just feel like they're trying to throw too much. I mean, I get it. You only have 4 pay-per-views a year that you do, but you don't have to give away so many free matches. Next week, it's a coffin match. They're going to do Darby Allin against Andrade Idolo. I mean, a coffin match, that's a pay-per-view match. That's a match you want people to pay to watch. You're putting it on free TV. So what do you do at a pay-per-view? Little things like that, to me, again, this is all my opinion. I'm sitting here talking behind a microphone. I'm not running a company. So take it for what you will. Going back up, I saw Boss B said FTR, other than the ROH belts, they have the AAA, the Mexican tag team titles as well. And I think ultimately you're probably going to see them go and try to, I don't think they unify the ROH and AEW belts. I think ultimately what you're going to end up seeing is, I like what they're doing with bringing out the Ring of Honor ring announcer, Bobby Cruz, and doing the shows. They did it last week with the, Young Bucks against FTR for the ROH tag team titles. And they did it this week for the TV title match. Again, it's one of those things where it gives it a different feel. It's not the same ring announcer. Yes, it's the same ring. It's everything else is the same, but that at least gives it a different feel for that match. Just gives it a little bit different feel. I thought the Joe match against Suzuki was great, hard hitting. Again, it's one of those things. They're not going to go out there and give you a 5-star, knock them out, drag out wrestling match. They're gonna beat the crap out of each other, and that's exactly what they did. And then Samoa Joe got the win at the end, and then of course you saw what happened. The big guy appears, and they go from there. I thought the Hobbs Ricky Starks match I thought was good. I thought they were going to do something else with Taz. I thought Taz was actually going to be, yeah, boss me. They did draw blood. Those. I mean, they were laying them in. They weren't. Samoa Joe's chest was red. Suzuki's chest was red. They were laying in those shots. The forearms were snug. Not saying they laid them in there, but I mean, I'm saying they laid them in there, but they were snug and they were, oh, why do they keep showing Wardlow beating up the security? It's the whole thing where he's not supposed to be in the building, and I guess they think it shows that he'll do whatever it takes to get to MJF. I don't know why every week he has to beat up, 4 or 5 of them, and then all of a sudden, he beats up the whole crew, and then all of a sudden there's 3 guys that get a hold of him, and then they all kind of stockpile on him. Every week it's the same thing too, as well as that. So now apparently they're going to have him wrestle, and MJF is going to handpick his opponent. So we'll see where they go from there. I do like what they're doing with that event, with that, but I think again, it seems like sometimes they're just going a little too, maybe a little too much. Just keep it simple. Just keep it simple. I like what they did tonight, where you had the 3 laid out, the shirt was missing, and then all of a sudden you see him come up and he's in the AEW staff shirt and things like that. They would have kept it there. Look, if MJF's getting counted out, why doesn't he just leave the ring and leave the arena? Hop. I mean, I know it's kind of WWE-ish, so that's probably why they didn't do it. But hop in a car and go. Just get out of there. Get counted out. Instead, you go up to the stage, you plead with the referee. I'll give you a double, triple, whatever Tony Khan's paying you if you don't count to 10. And the ref, of course, counts to 10. So, that's one of those things there where I feel like they're just trying to get a little bit too much going on in 2 hours. To me, it feels like. And looks like from the comments, you're probably agreeing a little bit with me, maybe not on everything. But going back to the Ricky Starks, Powerhouse Hobbs, Swerve Strickland, Keith Lee match. Stark's hometown, and you could tell he was very into this. I like the fact they did let them pick up the victory, and with Hobbs and Starks there. Again, when I saw Taz come down later on during the match, I was like, oh, he's going to turn on Ricky Starks, because Ricky Starks had that babyface feel tonight, and I thought it was going to be a swerve on him. No pun intended there on Swerve Strickland, but I thought they were going to end up actually turning on Ricky Starks. But overall, Team Taz look like they're going to come back. Hook will finally make his AEW Dynamite debut in Pittsburgh next week. So hey, there's something to look forward to. Frankie Fresco sounds cheesy. It really, some of it is. It's one of those things where it's just, I'm not going to say it's lazy writing, but it's one of those things where it's like, okay, well, how do we get Wardlow to the building? Yeah, we'll have him beat up security. I mean, again, you could go as different as him buying a ticket. If he's a paid patron on the show, you know what I'm saying? He could sit in the crowd. Then when he gets up to go in, then you can have the security come down or something like that. There's other ways to get him into the building other than attacking everybody in the back. Because, I mean, it does get a little bit too much. I like the 2-hour format better. Raw, for example, just drags on sometimes. I agree, Steve, but you can only fit, you're trying to fit what, 10 pounds of shit in a 5-pound bag. That's kind of what they're doing right now. I did like Thunder Rosa getting caked. I like the stuff they're doing. I just, week after week after week, you can only make the baby faces seem dumb for so long. And then after a while, it just gets, I mean, I get it. The baby faces are supposed to get fooled by the heels. That's what makes the heels so good. But when you're doing it week in and week out and week in and week out and week in and week out, you start making them look stupid in a way. For tonight, I mean, at first it looked like they took out the two guys, but the whole thing was that they were still there in the building. I mean, they didn't take them out. They got in the car from the airport and drove with them to the building. So, they're there. So again, it's 5-on-3. Ultimately, I hope they do a big debut or somebody. I don't know who they're going to do, or bring back somebody to team up with Kingston and them, but they've got to do something, because that to me is getting a little bit stale. Have I been to a live? Yeah, I've been to Bash at the Beach when it was down in at the Watsco Center. And then also at the Rampage that was at the James L. Knight Center. So I've been to those. And again, they have the energy in the crowd. You see the crowd and everything there. I don't know what else they can do. The matches are strong. Are there some misses on some of the stuff? Yeah. Is there some sloppy stuff tonight? The Jurassic Express against Bobby Fish, Red Dragon, and Kyle O'Reilly. Bobby Fish almost wasn't there for Jungle Boy. Jungle Boy's doing a flip outside the ring, and Bobby's like, oh, wait, I forgot. And he kind of turns around and luckily caught him. It's one of those things where you can only do so many dives to the outside before. I mean, tonight there was, I think I kept count. I lost count at 12. I think it was 12 dives to the outside during matches. I mean, and some of these guys that are diving, hell, Swerve Strickland did a spot where Keith Lee was on the apron, leaning back on the ropes. Swerve Strickland jumps off the turnbuckles, put both feet on his chest, and then does the backflip out to the floor. And you got Luchasaurus. This guy's, what is he, 6'8", something like that, 6'6", 6'6" to 6'8", something like that. almost 300 pounds, and he's diving out to the ring. I mean, man, dude. Again, start saving some of this stuff for your battle of the belts, for your big shows. You're doing it every week. It takes away a little bit. I'm not going to pay for something I can watch for free on TNT or TBS. Boss B said the caking was funny. Steve Chapman, tonight's show sounds good. I just caught the last few minutes of the chopping match. I wish I'd seen more. Yeah, no, it was good. I'm very interested to see what they do with the Blackpool Combat Club. That's Wheeler Yuta, Moxley, and Brian Danielson with William Regal. So I'm very interested to see where they go with that. This Friday, I guess they're taking on the Gun Club, which will be Billy Gunn, Austin Gunn, and who's the other Gun? Oh, God, I'm drawing a blank. Who's the other ass boy? Man, I forget that. Boss B, 7 definite miscues that need to be cleaned up. Yeah. Again, a lot of these guys are learning on the fly, and I just feel like sometimes they're doing too much instead of just keeping it simple. Keep it simple, get through the match, and build a story. And I love that AEW does that with a lot of their feuds. You know, they build up the stories. For instance, the Jericho Appreciation Society against Santana Ortiz and Kingston. At some point, you know, the baby faces can't be looking like fools every week, getting beat down every week. At some point, they got to realize that there's more out there. You know, Dad, thank you. Smash that like button. Steve Chapman already did Papa Stanley into a good deal. Good deal. He always does great fights. The one with Daniel Bryanson or Brian Danielson when they fought in Miami was also a classic fight. Wait, which one? Who are you talking to? Who are you referring to? Frankie Fresco. I'm sorry. I'm always confused on who you're referring to. I like that guy. I don't know which one you were referring to on that one. Marina Shafir debuted tonight. Oh, Wheeler Yuta. Okay, I think that's who you're referring to. Yeah, he's now part of the Blackpool Combat Club. So it will be a good deal there to see. Interested to see what they do with him, because I thought he was good on the independent scene, and then they brought him in here, and he kind of slow start, but now they've built him up, and I'm very interested to see what they do with Regal and them. I was talking about Marina Shafir debuted tonight against Sky Blue, setting up the match with Jade Cargill. They're going to do a TBS. Oh, you're talking about Suzuki. Okay, I'm sorry. Minoru Suzuki. Sorry about that, Frankie. I thought you were talking about Wheeler Yuta, because he had a great match with Brian Danielson as well. But Marina Shafir, I thought, looked good in the presentation of the match. There were some miscues there, but overall, I thought that match did good. It's going to be interesting to see her and Jade Cargill go. Neither are very experienced in the ring, as far as, usually you'll have, the veteran kind of to lead around the match and make it something. And I don't know. I'm very interested to see how they lay out the Jade Cargill Marina Shafir match. It's going to be definitely very, shall I say, physical. I think that's going to be a very physical match between the two of them, but it'll be interesting to see. Now, for some of the things I didn't like tonight, I didn't like the whole let's book a coffin match between Andrea Alidilo and Darby Allin on free TV. I just think that's not a match that you put on TV. You can throw cage matches, you can throw some of those other matches, but why are you doing a coffin match? And have they built the feud up enough to where you want to watch them in a coffin match? Because I haven't seen a lot of anything to build up to a coffin match already. Has there been some times in a match where, Idolo or some of the other guys interfere and things like that? Yes, but now you're doing a coffin match. It just doesn't. Again, it's one of those things where I try to follow, and I think AEW does a great job at laying out the story. I think sometimes they rush, and I think this is one of those jobs where they're rushing it a little bit. Sorry about that. And no, that's not lime, and that's I don't do the lime stuff. Probably need to start to. But overall, like I said, that was really the only bad thing I saw, and then the miscues, which we've discussed there. There were some miscues there, and also I thought there's too many promos in between. Every time you come back, I don't need to watch a promo. WWE does it with vignettes, and I get tired of them, especially when they're leading up to pay-per-views. There's a vignette before everything, everything. And it's the same one over and over and over. Duke Tomlinson, red suits. You think it's Mr. Kool-Aid. That's what I love. I need to run through a wall real quick. Like I said last week, in my opinion, it's because they are trying to catch up with WWE. Steve, I would agree, but at the same time, if it was working and their numbers were going up, I would say continue to do it. But their numbers have not gone up. They've actually slowly crept down. They haven't dropped down a lot, but yeah, the Fish mustache game is always impressive. Bobby Fish has always had a tremendous mustache game there, especially when he was in NXT. They smooth. Frankie Fresh said, "Yeah, WWE got my attention, bringing Cody," and again, that's going to be the thing. That's going to be the tall tale sign, because look, the one thing about WWE and Vince McMahon is this: Vince is not getting rid of anybody that is making him money. And when I say making him money is, okay, this is what X is getting paid. This is what we feel X's drawing power is. If it's even close to being, a win for WWE, they're not letting you go. Vince will not let you go. If you're making that company money, he will not let you go. Which why, again, Braun Strowman, I think, again, going off of, I don't know, I don't have any, they said he was making around 2.5 to 3 million a year. He doesn't have that type of drawing power. He's not drawing that. So they released him. Do I agree with every release they do? No, I don't. But again, if they don't think you're gonna in the long run, you're gonna make them money, or they sour. Vince does sour on a lot of guys. Swerve Strickland, that whole hit row. They came out one week and the next week they were gone. If you don't get that right response right when it takes off that they think you're going to get, and they don't see you're going to be able to make money for them, you're going to be out. April 15th, 2 more days, is a big cut day usually for WWE, but they've been releasing so many wrestlers every other time. I don't know if they're going to do that this year, but usually around April 15th is a big cut day for wrestlers. So now what does Tony Khan stand outside WWE headquarters, and as soon as they're released, he gives them contracts? Because I don't know how many more people they can bring in. I get it. You're going to have ROH, but right now ROH has no TV. Hell, you're taking away your AEW TV time for ROH, which, not saying it's a bad thing, but look at all the damn people in AEW that you have. Tonight, Mox didn't wrestle. Bryan Danielson didn't wrestle. The Young Bucks weren't on the card. FTR didn't wrestle. There's a lot of guys that were not on the show tonight, and gals. Hell, now I think back at it, there was the Marina Shafir match. That was the only women's match on tonight. Everything else was promo. They had Hayter and Tony Storm, and they did Nyla Rose and Thunder Rosa in the back. So again, WWE says, okay, if they can make me money, I'm bringing them in. Cody, they knew. Okay, look what he did. He gets it. He gets it now. He didn't get it when we had him before. He gets it now. Let's bring him back. Let's make some money. Justin Cordero says, when I watch WWE, I think What would Corny think? And then put on NWA Power. When does Vince bring back Rusev for Cheap Heat that he loved? No, he's not bringing back. Rusev re-signed with AEW. I think he's there till 2024. He re-upped. So he's not going anywhere. If he shows up, I mean, I don't know, but I don't think that he's going to show up there anytime soon unless he violates his contract. Frank Fresco goes, what do you think if AEW starts to do a segment like the Miz TV show, but with MJF? I don't know that MJF. I'm trying to think now. I think it could do something, but I just don't know. I think MJF is so despised that, at least with the Miz, it's kind of like it gets funny on some of the things there, but MJF just comes across as such an ass. But I mean, like you're saying, to try something different, it could be, and then you're also, you're going to get more people on, I guess, if you do that instead of the segment there. I mean, there's definitely some things they could do there. I mean, hell, I mean, you could do something with, I mean, I thought they were going to use Regal more in a role like what he did with NXT as a commissioner, so they could do more stuff with him. But I do like him as the leader of the Blackpool Combat Club. I do like that, but I just don't know that you can do a lot with him at that point. What's the plan for ROH? Are they going to integrate or have it as a separate entity? Justin, everything I've been reading is separate entity, and almost like what, and again, this is where it kind of throws me off, because they said they wanted to use it like WWE uses NXT. But if that's the case, you have FTR as your tag team champion, and now you just got Samoa Joe as your TV champion, and then Jonathan Gresham is your Ring of Honor heavyweight champion. All three are not developmental talents. So unless they're going to use those guys to work and maybe build up, I think ROH is not going to be a developmental like they said. I think it's going to be more of its own entity. I think ultimately, I mean, it's going to be interesting to see what they do with TV. Do they try to get it on the Turner Network, or do they try to work it? Because remember, it was it was owned by Sinclair before. Sinclair sold it. So I don't know what else was in the contract for the sale if Sinclair needs to still show it on their channels. Maybe they got a deal worked out and they're just waiting to get everything put together. And again, Tony Khan's going to make another announcement next week. So we'll see. Maybe they'll announce that ROH has got a TV deal. I don't know if they do that on AEW TV or not, but hell, you've seen the ROH tag team titles defended on AEW TV, and tonight you saw the TV title. So ultimately, we'll see. And then Justin just came back with, I think having it separate is the best idea. ECW may still be around if Vince just pushed ECW. Yeah, but Vince would never let ECW beat any WWE programming. That's not a Vince McMahon move. Vince McMahon didn't create ECW. If Vince McMahon created ECW, I guarantee you he would have done everything in his damn power to make sure that did not go down the way it did. Steve Chapman said, every time I hear Bryan Danielson's name, I think of probably the stupidest angle ever in wrestling, the yes movement, pumping your arm in the air and yelling yes over and over. How dumb. It might be dumb, but my man, it got over. And it got him a heavyweight title shot, and it got him a heavyweight title, and he beat Batista at WrestleMania. He beat Triple H at WrestleMania in the same night. And it may be dumb, but it got him over. And to this day, two things resonate in crowds: the yes chants and the what. And of course, Ric Flair's woo. I mean, you those are the three things that you still hear every time when you're just sitting there at a crowd at everything, and you hear what? Woo! Yes, that's the chance, all that stuff is still going on throughout. So, I mean, it may have been dumb, but the dumbest things, I mean, hell, look, Stone Cold with what? I mean, that was like, really? What? And it just took off, man. Sometimes that's all it is, man. Just the dumbest stuff takes off. Stone Cold, even with the 316, he just thought about it because Jake Roberts was you know, doing the whole, finding God and everything else like that in his life and turning his life around at that point. Um, and so he said, you say your psalm and your John 3:16, well, Austin 3:16 said, I just kicked your ass. I just whooped your ass. And then next day, there's signs. There's Austin 3:16. There's uh, Austin 3:16 says, I just whooped your ass. And boom, it took off. That's your merch. Sometimes little things that are said. Hell, Ric Flair, if you watch the Evil thing, he's just one time said something about Space Mountain. And from there, it takes off. It's just sometimes the dumbest things are the things that work. Um, Yeah, Steve said, I know it did, but I couldn't get over it. Just shook my head the whole time. Honestly, I did too. I didn't understand the whole thing, but my goodness, the merchandise and everything that it made him, it's probably making him to this day. I just hate when bigger companies buy the smaller companies and try to make them something they aren't, not just amplify what they're good at. Yeah, but that's the problem where it goes with when people just, again, Vince is one of those guys. If he thinks he can make money out of it, he's going to milk it dry. He saw ECW and was like, okay, wait a minute. These one night stands are doing good. They're doing great. But the problem was Vince would never let ECW be what ECW was. And what made it great was the fact that there were so many damn rebels that would do whatever they had to do to make the crowd chant holy shit. If I got to jump off this balcony 75 feet in the air and go through a table, I'm going to. And that's what they did. And ultimately, Vince and them, WWE's not doing that. They're not going to allow people, that craziness. I mean, hell, look at the first match of ECW. It was the freaking ECW zombie. Really? This is what we've come to? Because again, remember, it was on Sci-Fi. So to work it with Sci-Fi, they brought out an ECW zombie. And then Sandman came out and Singapore caned the zombie to death. Justin Cordera, Frankie Fresh said, I saw that on Monday. Ruby Soho fought in Elevation. Yeah. Yeah, but she hasn't been on TV in 110 days. Almost 4 months she hasn't been on TV. And actually, I saw that, I think, last week. So now we're about 117. So, but she hasn't been on AEW TV in about 110 days. So let that sink in. This was one of their highest, less than a year ago. They brought her in and she was feuding and was going to be a champion, and now can't even get on TV. Let's see here. Jessica Cordero said, my fave signs merch was more head. Yeah, by Al Snow. Yeah, definitely, man. I love me some Al Snow, man. Too. You got to love Al Snow, man. If you love wrestling, you love Al Snow. The Job Squad, hell yeah. I don't know where I used to have shirts. When I wrestled, I wore, that was the shirt I wore to every show. Let's see here. Glad I caught the show. I'll be tuning in more often. Great content. Good deal, Justin. Yeah, we're here after Raw, Dynamite, and SmackDown watching Rampage, and then we pre-show the pay-per-view. So we're here. Make sure you hit the subscribe button here on the Big O Radio Show YouTube channel, and you'll get notifications. How about the Yeti? Yeah, there's another one that was, yeah. Dude, there was so many bad. I mean, hell, look at friggin' poor Glenn Jacobs before he was Kane. I mean, he was the fake Diesel. He was Dr. Isaac Yankem. I mean, good God. What the hell is next? Sarah Mieta. Yeah. Well, actually, they changed it now. Now he's Pinta Escura. What's the Escura? I don't even know if I'm pronouncing that right. So I'm sorry. That's my gringo coming out in me. You think that they're going to push Satnam? I hope not. I hope they, let me rephrase this. I hope they do, but in Ring of Honor. Give them the push in Ring of Honor and let them go. You don't need them on. And then again, Dark and Elevation possibly, but not on TV right now. Let him keep doing what he's doing now. If he comes in, he just beats somebody, squeezes their head, which apparently every Indian superstar does. You had the Great Khali and now Satnam. It's the big squeeze, the device. I guess when you're 7'1", 7'3", that's the finishing move for those guys. But I don't want to see him pushed on AEW TV right now. Keep him in Dark, Elevation, Ring of Honor. those things right now. Let them build up. Let them get some things. Oh, Pentoscuro means okay, dark. That makes sense. That makes sense. Okay. All right. Thank you, Frankie. Appreciate that, buddy. And also Joseph, I see there now you put in there too as well. Thank you, my man. Uh yeah, Oscuro. Um, let's see here. Yeti is supposed to be an abominable snowman, yet he came out like a mummy. Yeah. It was the worst side. I mean, I really felt like they just didn't know what the hell to do with him. Hell, remember, WCW had RoboCop a long time ago wrestle and thought it was the greatest idea to bring him out to team up with Sting. And I mean, what are you doing? What the hell are you? How are you going to wrestle RoboCop? Think about that now. How are you wrestling RoboCop? What are you doing? It just didn't make a lot of sense. All he did was end up ripping off the cage. And what happened to the other big buff guy who had a beef with Taz Group? Oh, he's actually at Frankie. That's Chris Cage. Sorry, Brian Cage. And he actually re-debuted with Tully Blanchard at the Ring of Honor Supercard during WrestleMania weekend. Brian Cage was his name. So he has come back, and he's with Tully Blanchard Enterprises in Ring of Honor right now. Not sure if they're going to move that over to AEW or not. Remember, FTR fired Tully Blanchard. So maybe ultimately this group is going to be something he brings back in and maybe feuds with Ring of Honor, because there is a tag team in that group as well. That could maybe feud with FTR, and FTR fired Tully Blanchard. So again, you got a little bit of a storyline you can make there. Steve Chapman says, I like this show more than the actual wrestling shows. Isn't that crazy? Of course, man. We keep it real here, man. We're not going to fluff it. We don't fluff it. And plus, I don't have to go for 3 hours or 2 hours. I go 45 to an hour, and then I can go before I wear out my welcome. And then I come back the next couple nights. That's the thing. You got to leave them wanting more. Brian Cage is good, man. He's a very good wrestler. It got into the thing to where he got injured, and just it's same thing with Rusev right now. Remember, Rusev, I think, tore his pectoral or something. And now with all these new signings, where do you bring him back? That's how with Brian Cage. Well, his contract was up, and then they let him know that AEW had an option to pick up, and they picked it up because they didn't want to let Brian Cage go. Because they know he's good. He can work. He's freaking badass. They just didn't know where to put him. And that's one of the things that they're going to run into now. And again, I mean, everybody's like, oh, when's Wyndham Rotundo coming back, or Bray Wyatt, if you don't know who he is. I don't know that he is, because I don't know where you go. Malachi Black hasn't been on TV in 2 weeks at least, except for an interview. Until they get more TV time, I'm not sure what AEW can do. And you can only cram so much in and keep the interest of the fans viewing at home. The people in the live are going to love everything they're doing. But the problem is at home, when you're cramming all that stuff in there, remember, they do picture-in-picture almost the whole show. So they don't really go to a lot of commercials. So that's another thing there. Justin said, I miss the days of great managers. Now, and I think also MVP as well. MVP is kind of under the learning tree of Paul Heyman. So I think you're going to see a little bit of that going around. I think you'll see a little bit better. But again, it's tough, man. It's tough in this day and age of wrestling for managers too, because again, managers used to be the mouthpiece. Now a lot of these guys, when they're working up through NXT, are taught promos. So they're not just showing up in these big guys that again, you're Brock Lesnar for a while. He wasn't that talker. He wasn't that confident in his talking. So you stick him with a manager. Sometimes you don't want the big guys to talk, just because when they open their mouth, they sound normal. So you have somebody else be the mouthpiece, because then all of a sudden a 7-foot guy opens his mouth and he sounds just like you. It takes away from the myth that he's, larger than life. Why don't they push Hikaru Shida to fight Jade? I don't know what they're doing with Shida. I don't. They brought her out. They pushed her for like a couple weeks and then gone again. I don't even think she ever got a match. I'm with you, Justin. For me, nothing compares to Lou Albano, Fred Blassie. Yeah, I mean, back in those times, I mean, you had Lou Albano, Fred Blassie, the Grand Wizard. Hell, you went over to WCW. You had Paulie Dangerously. You had so many managers back in the day. Trying to think of Skandar Akbar in the things. You go down to Championship Wrestling from Florida at the time. Who was down there? Sir Oliver Humperdinck. I mean, when you look back at some of the managers back then, again, I think a lot of them also Precious Paul, yeah. Hell, even Paul Bearer was Percy Pringle back in the day in Championship Wrestling from Florida and then also in Texas, and nothing. No, he got injured, Frankie, so you just can't come. They got to figure out where to bring him in and where to write him in. Where do you write him in? If you're bringing back Kip Sabian from an injury, you want it to be something somewhat big to get a little bit of a push. You don't bring him back the job to CM Punk. I think that's where sometimes WWE goes wrong. They bring these guys back, and instead of pushing them, they just kind of feed them to the wolves. And then you want 2 weeks from now to make me believe that this guy's worthy of a title shot. And he just last week lost to a guy that hadn't won in 20 years. So that's one of the things. Again, I do applaud AEW where they try not to act like you're stupid. My understanding is Kip is healed. Kip Sabian's healed. Just he don't have anything to do. Yeah, it's one of those things where there's not enough TV time in AEW. You don't bring him back to go to Elevation or Dark. Orange Cassidy's another one, my man. Last time I saw him, his arm was in a sling. Again, it's one of those things where, in the golden era of wrestling, the managers made it just a bit better. Yeah, and we didn't even mention Bobby Heenan. Bobby Heenan, we didn't even mention. Jimmy Mouth of the South Heart. All those guys. Those we didn't even mention those. Slick was even good in his time with Akeem and, Big Boss Man and all those. You look back at the managers, it was just, there were some good managers. And the thing is, too, a lot of those guys were former, wrestlers. They were just getting up there in the years, or they, maybe an injury or something forced them to become a manager, so they understood the business. When you understood the business side, and Teddy Long was real good too. He was a referee, then he went to manager, and then he went and became what he did with WWE. I used to remember when he used to be the referee. Then he became Theodore R. Long. Managers always add, good managers will add to the match. The problem is some managers end up being better than the match sometimes, which is why Paul Heyman, you see him now, he just stays quiet, stays in there. He does his talking before the match, sets up the match, and then when he's there, he's just sitting in the corner. And then when a big move happens, you'll hear him go, "Oh my God," or something like that. He'll yell out, but only at that time, because he's not taken away from the match. He understands the business. He understands what he's out there to do. And I think you're seeing that again. I'm trying to think, the gentleman that comes out with Penta, I don't really see him as a manager per se. I get it that he accompanies him to the ring, but I just don't see him as a manager. Yeah, Paul Bearer was Percy Pringle. Yeah, and then he didn't have to do that much, but all you do is all that stuff. That was, again, also the other thing that Paul Bearer brought, or Percy Pringle brought to that character, was he was a mortician. That's what he did for a living. So he brought realness to the character, to the vignettes. Everything they did, he brought the realness because that's what he did. That was his real job. He owned somewhere in Alabama. I think he owned a funeral home, a funeral parlor, which is where they did a lot of the vignettes at. So that was another thing that he brought to that character, the realness. The fact that he understood that, what it needed to be. It wasn't, nothing was done on that character that wasn't thought out, especially with, the way Mark Calloway is, he's not gonna. I mean, this guy. I remember when we were at FCW at the time and doing the tryout. Dusty was talking to us about promos, and he goes, "It's not just promos. It's not just talking." He goes, "Look at the Undertaker. When he comes to the ring, every step is on a beat." Mark Calloway was so detailed that when he first got the entrance song, as he was developing the character more and more, he understood that every step, every move he did was at a beat on the song. When he reached for his hat, when he took the hat off, everything was done to a beat of the entrance music. That's how detailed he was. And that's why that character was so damn good to this day. The manager for Abyss was good. Trying to think who was the manager for Abyss at that time. Was that Don Callis at the time? Who was actually the manager for Abyss at the time? Paul Bear and Just Incredible, two of my favorite wrestling names. So clever. Yeah. Yeah. Just Incredible was great. Name wise. Yes. I remember Pringle being, yes, Ravishing Rick Rude's manager. Yep. Why do you think that no wrestling characters right now have a woman by their side before like Elizabeth or Sensational Sherry? To be honest, I think the women are not being looked at as a side piece anymore. Some of them are more athletic than some of the male performers. I don't think women's wrestling was you know what it is today. So I think you'll see more performers, the women being performers than they will being, the arm candy, which is what Elizabeth and Sherry were. I mean, hell, what Sherry was with, I mean, again, that was at the twilight of her career after she suffered some injuries. She still wanted to be in the business, and it was perfect for her and Shawn Michaels. I thought that was perfect. You know, her and Macho Man when he was doing the Macho King thing, and then to have Elizabeth come out and make that save at the WrestleMania and everything there. I mean, they added to the stories, but I think now the women are looked at in a different light. I think back then it was looked at more as, okay, you're arm candy. Okay, you're this. And even in the Attitude Era, you have to look at, some of those women. I mean, Trish was a yoga instructor who just took to wrestling very naturally. Lita worked in the craft and was in the independent scene and things like that. But a lot of them came from the bodybuilding world or the fitness modeling, things like that. They weren't there. They were there just for looks, really. And then some of them got into it and became, you know, what they wore, what they became because they just wanted it so much. Agree 100%. I don't have to how remind you how much I loved. Yes, yes, Steve. Yes, you and your damn Ronda Rousey and Charlotte Flair. Oh my God, can they choke each other out? Where did China come from? China was, my understanding was a female bodybuilder and just happened to stumble across some of the guys in a hotel bar drinking. And then they kind of introduced, at the time, Shawn Michaels and Triple H were looking for a bodyguard. And they ended up like, hey, wait, this might make it even better for us in DX if we have a female bodyguard. And that's kind of where that kind of came in at. Now the men are the side piece. Yeah, but that guy's man, I can't think of his name right now. Mark, what the hell is his name? You see him now with MJF. He's like a lawyer running around, just being. He's like, he reminds me of the accident lawyers back in the day, the ambulance chasers. That's what he is. Every time somebody's in trouble, he's the guy, and he's out handing out flyers to make sure Wardlow doesn't get on. Then he's taking notes for Jade Cargill, and he's just wherever he needs to be. He's like the little ambulance chaser back there in the back. His manager looked like a magician. Man, now you're gonna make me look this up. Let me see here real quick. Abyss manager it was in TNA, correct? I'm guessing. I know this is great TV and radio here. Oh, James Mitchell. James Mitchell. He was the guy that looked like a devil. I think that's who you're referring to, James Mitchell. Once I put it in, I saw his name, and yeah, James Mitchell. He was actually the manager also for Mikey Whipwreck and Tajiri in ECW. I forgot about him. Yeah. Yeah, he had the eyebrows and everything and all that. And so I like when Jade says cut. Yeah, everybody picks on Tony Schiavone, right? Even today, they were like, what does Tony Schiavone add to the broadcast on wrestling Twitter? They were like, what is Tony Schiavone's job? I think it's just to be the guy that gets picked on, right? Now that Adam Cole came and kicked him out of the Britt Baker fan club, so now he can't sit there and be that anymore. So now he's with Jade Cargo, and she's just like, Tony, cut the shit. And he gets disappeared. So, man, but it's going to be interesting to see where it goes. AEW, again, a lot of stuff packed in the 2 hours. It almost doesn't give you a chance to breathe. And again, I know WWE feels like it drags a little bit because it gives you a little bit too much time to breathe, but there's got to be a balance. There's got to be a balance. You can't, again, if you're at home watching on TV, you can never leave. And I get it. That's probably what they want to do. But ultimately, you're going to go to the restroom. You're going to do whatever. And I just think you're going to, they're just trying to pack too much in. That's Sean Stanley's opinion. I want to thank everybody that's been on today. Steve, Justin, Frankie, Boss B. Who else we got? Joseph Rodriguez. Saw some other here. Let's see here. Going back through. Duke Tomlinson. I think he was the one that said I look good in red. Red suits me, yeah. Red suits me. That was Duke. My dad, Steve, as always, Boss B. Appreciate y'all. Make sure you follow me at Sean_Stanley11 on Twitter. I might start doing some spaces during some of these shows and having some fun with that. I'm not sure 100%. I haven't done a lot of spaces, so I don't know if that's even good or anything else there. But I want to appreciate everybody here. Make sure hit that like button on the way out. Subscribe to the YouTube channel if you're not already, so you can get the notifications when we're going on. But the next show will be Friday, 10 o'clock or 10:05, right after SmackDown. Frankie Fresco says, if I was a manager, I'd hire you as my, if I was a wrestler, I'd hire you as my manager. I'll tell you what, I'll get back in shape. I'll become a wrestler, Frankie, and I'll make you my manager. Can we do that? Because I don't want to manage, man. I want to get back in the ring and do some stuff. But it'll be SmackDown Friday night, 10:05, right here on the Big O Radio Show YouTube channel. Don't forget tomorrow morning, we will be at Hialeah Park Casino. Friday, we're at KSDT. And Frankie Fresco says, I love it. So therefore, it is done. And I thank you guys for making this show awesome. And this is why we do it. We come here, we talk wrestling, we give our opinions. We respectfully agree, disagree. But this show is for each and every one of you. And in the words of the great Gordon Soley, so long from the Sunshine State.
Oh, I think I know what this is. Houston, we have a package. Hello?
No matter where you are, the